Okay, we have a question. It's a proration question. A buyer is purchasing a home. Taxes for the previous year were $3,212. We're looking to see what the proration for buyer and seller would be if the property closes on August 8th. So always remember when you have a proration question, the first thing we're going to do is draw a timeline just to get that out. So our timeline is going to be here. And we're going to put our closing date here. So now we've got this here. August 8th closing. Taxes were paid the previous year, and they were $3,212. So we typically think, so taxes are paid in arrears unless it says otherwise. So our taxes for the previous year were $3,212. They're only giving us that amount to tell us that they paid the previous year, and that's the amount we're using this year. So our dollar sign, buyer is going to pay these taxes at the end of the year, and that's a big deal here. And they're going to pay $3,212, and then they're going to call you up and they're going to say, hey, I received a tax bill, and it says that I paid taxes for the whole year. I paid taxes for $3,212, and I don't understand why I'm paying for the whole year if we close on August 8th. The seller should have paid for the first part of the year. And then your job as the real estate agent will be to say, you're right. The seller does owe from January 1st through the day of closing. However, they paid that on the day of closing. So you're going to go over your closing statement with that buyer and say, look, see, this is where you have a credit for the taxes for the amount of time that the seller lived in the property. So this is going to help you explain to your buyer why they owe those taxes. So to do the math on this, we're simply going to take the taxes for the whole year from the previous year, which were $3,212, and we're going to divide that by 360. And why do we do 360? Because that's, unless it says otherwise in the question, we base this on a banker's year or a 360-day year, where every month is 30 days, and the year has 360 days. It's just a lot easier for us to calculate. And we remember that if it says calendar year, then it's actual 365. So February has 28 days, and March has 31 days. So we've got our $3,212, and we're going to divide that by our 360, and that equals $8.92 per day, with a couple of twos after. And always try to go out a few numbers, just because it's not exact all the time, but it does help if you just bring it out a couple numbers. You can round up or round down if that last number is a 5 or 6 above or whatever. But I just find it easier when you're working on your calculator to just kind of keep what's in the calculator. So we know that now our daily rate, or per diem, for those taxes is $8.92. And we're closing on August 8th. Unless it says otherwise, the seller pays for the day of closing, or is responsible for the day of closing. So we have to count our full months first. So we have January through July. Those are just our full months. Don't be fooled by that August there. So we have January, February, March, April, May, June, July. 7 full months. And then how many days are in each month? 30. So 7 times 30, use your calculator. I know you know this, but you want to make sure you have it right. These proration questions are the ones that play tricks on our mind. So 7 times 30 is 210. That's our days on our full months. And then we have our August. So we count August 1st through the 8th. So that's going to be 8 days. So 218 days total. And then what do we multiply that by? We're going to multiply it by this number, our daily rate. So 8.9222 times 218 equals 1,945.04. So if they're asking the proration for the buyer and the seller, now we have to say who we're going to debit and who we're going to credit. So we remember, if we put a $sign over here, that means that the buyer will pay the bill and they're going to question why they paid the bill for the whole year. And then you're going to remind them, oh, no, at closing, the seller paid for the time period that they occupied the property for the first part of the year. So they were debited $1,945.04. So the taxes that are going to be paid are $1945.04. We're going to debit the seller, we take away from the seller because they owe the buyer, and we're going to credit the buyer. Always, always, always the same amount. So now the buyer is only responsible for August 9th through the end of the year, and the seller has paid for the time they occupied the property, January through August 8th. I hope that makes sense. Till we do the next one, that's pretty much it. So the main things you have to be really careful about, number one, draw that timeline. Number two, and I'm going to just put buyer over here just to keep that in your head. Put that $sign on the side of the calendar. If it's on the buyer's side, you're going to debit the seller. If you have a $sign on the seller's side, you're going to debit the buyer. So it's always the opposite of what you have for that $sign. Okay, so next one's coming up soon.